D+1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's 8 p.m. on Thursday, the 17th of August. I'm Alex Armstrong, and tonight I'm filling in for the pristinely polished shoes of Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg on tonight's programme. Well, we were told by a Labour minister just 2 months ago that the majority of illegal Channel migrants were women and children. Well, the numbers say otherwise. I'll give you the facts and the figures, the truth about what is really going on with Britain's never-ending migrant crisis. And it is A-level results day, and alongside that, Jeremy Clarkson's annual witty social media posts. The debate over whether university is worth it has re-emerged yet again. I'll be joined by a young man who has decided university isn't for him and is pursuing a less debt-crunching path. Also tonight.
I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace.
Interesting stuff. Just moments ago, US President Donald Trump spoke to the media from the Oval Office, saying he believes tomorrow's Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin will lead to peace between Russia and Ukraine. But will it? Also tonight, Europe's right is on the rise. The AfD is now Germany's most popular party, and Italian living standards have surpassed Britain's. What is sending Europeans to the right of politics? And of course, Princess Anne turns 75 tomorrow. We'll pay a small tribute to the princess, called Britain's hardest working royal. Well, State of the Nation starts right now. I don't know why I said the 17th of August. Apparently, it's obviously the 14th of August. I beg your pardon. Obviously can't read. Also, I'll be joined by my panel historian and author Dr. Tessa Dunlop and journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. As ever, let me know your views. gbnews.com/shorter, and I'll try and read some out throughout the show. But now, it's time for your news bulletins with Tatiana Sanchez.
Alex, thank you very much. The top story, Sir Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelensky
say there's strong resolve for peace in Ukraine ahead of highly anticipated talks between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. The two leaders expressed cautious optimism about the prospect of a truce, adding as long as Putin takes action to prove he's serious about ending the war. Starmer hosted the Ukrainian president for a private breakfast in Number 10 as Europe braces for the face-to-face meeting between the US president and his Russian counterpart. Speaking from the Oval Office this evening, President Trump said European leaders could attend a second meeting between the US and Russia, his comments coming on the eve of the two countries meeting in Alaska. The US president says if he has a good meeting with the Russian president, he'll call Ukraine's President Zelensky to arrange a second meeting. Elsewhere, a man accused of deliberately driving into a crowd of fans at Liverpool's Premier League victory parade has been charged with 24 new offences, including attempted grievous bodily harm against two babies. More than 130 people, including children, were injured when Paul Doyle allegedly drove his car into hordes of fans at the celebrations on the 26th of May. He was previously charged with 7 offences, including wounding and grievous bodily harm with intent, plus dangerous driving. 6 of the new offences relate to children, including a 6-month-old and a 7-month-old. His trial is set for the 24th of November. Now, the death of a teenage girl who was left alone at a children's mental health ward by an inexperienced agency worker using fake ID has been ruled as an unlawful killing by an inquest jury. 14-year-old Ruth Simankovich was being treated for an eating disorder at Hunter Combe Hospital in Berkshire. She'd been placed under strict one-to-one observation when on February the 12th of 2022 she was left on her own by the member of staff responsible for watching her. She was able to shut herself in her bedroom at the hospital's psychiatric intensive care unit where she self-harmed. She died 2 days later. In other news today, the UK economy grew by 0.3% between April and June, slower than the first quarter but stronger than expected, according to official figures from the ONS. Growth was driven by a rise in services and a boost in construction, while production fell. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, says the UK is the fastest growing economy in the G7 for the first half of the year, calling the numbers encouraging. And top A-level results across England, Wales and Northern Ireland have risen, while a record number of students have been accepted into their first-choice university. Hundreds of thousands of students received their exam results today, with boys outperforming girls in terms of top A-level grades for the first time in 7 years. Fewer students took A-levels this year, though, while T-levels in England grew in popularity, but dropout rates remain high. And those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour. Now it's back to Alex.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. Well, they told you not to believe your eyes and ears.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not. No, they're not.
No, you have got to take... No, look, I get this is...
North of 90% of them are adult men.
Let me be... No.
Well, that's Darren Jones, their Chief Secretary to the Treasury. We have the facts, Darren. I have the numbers. Let's finally put that spout of gaslighting to rest, because I'm going to smash that narrative for good right now. Of the 38,023 illegal migrants that crossed the Channel in the year ending March, 87% were indeed male, with only 13% female. So, simply put, 9 out of 10 illegal migrants are men. We now also know the largest group entering the UK, of course, Afghanistanis, followed by Syrians, Eritreans and Iranians. And that should be concerning, given that data showing sexual offences in London by ethnicity demonstrate that Afghanistanis are over 1,000% more likely to commit sex crimes than a British person, and Eritreans, the next on that list, are 911% more likely to commit such crimes. With this all in mind, is it quite fair for Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary, to have said he is fearful for the safety of his 3 little girls living in the same neighbourhood as illegal migrants? Well, if you listen to the BBC, they said it was xenophobia.
These words echo a fear many have absorbed. fear of the stranger. The technical name for this is xenophobia.
My panel's raring to go, but the BBC has now apologised and edited the clip, but only after considerable public backlash. You can throw around phobias and isms and try to gaslight people all you like. It doesn't change the reality, though, does it? That time and time again, the data proves this ongoing experiment with open borders is putting young girls and women at a severely higher risk of crimes like rape. Dismissing these concerns as prejudice doesn't make them disappear. It only serves to pander to fantasy and shun the reality faced by communities struggling to deal with the consequences. The liberal elite, insulated in their affluent, leafy suburbs and multi-million-pound homes, don't bear the brunt of this unending experiment. They can and do, as you know, downplay the risks, accusing sceptics and real people suffering of manufacturing a crisis while ignoring the lived experiences of ordinary British people. But the numbers don't bend to that narrative, do they? They don't lie. When they claim there is no crisis, remember, the data speaks for itself, and it's time to stop gaslighting the public with tired accusations of phobia and racism, the same drool that has decimated public trust in politicians and the mainstream media. The truth is in the figures. The truth is with those living with the crisis, and now both are commanding the attention of the British public. Well, as ever, let me know what you think. I'm going to read some of your comments out. gbnews.com/yoursay. As you know, I love to read out your comments, but I want to get the thoughts of my panel, historian and author Dr. Tessa Dunlop and journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee. Linda, I'll start with you. The data is quite stark. We draw that comparison for a reason, because I think people need to know. Many people know this data now, but more people do need to become aware of it. And I think when you look up and down the country, you see the protests that are erupting. You see Keir Starmer before last year when the awful riots took place, without calling people far right. But we don't call out the far left and other groups, do we, when there's genuine protests in local areas. Should people, and is Robert Jenrick right to say he's fearful for his kids living in areas where illegal migrants are?
It's his prerogative to be fearful of what he wants to be fearful about when it comes to his own family. You see, I think Darren Jones is so misguided because you've got the figures, you've told the viewer about all the figures now, but actually we only needed to look with our own eyes. If every day you can see the boats coming ashore and you can see it's 95% men on board the boats, then you don't need necessarily the facts and the figures. They are interesting, but we know that most of the people on board those boats are men. And the reason is that the crossings are so dangerous, most women would find it terribly difficult in terms of physical strength to survive, let alone their babies. That is why you get such distressing scenes where babies are sometimes on board and sometimes they are handed over to the RNLI or the Border Force Patrol boats. It's clearly obvious that 90% of those people are men of uncertain origin. We don't know their backgrounds. You wouldn't want that living next door to you. No one wants that living next door to them, because why would you have people, men, with an unquestioned background, who are not used to this country, who are culturally different? Why would you have them here? It's unfair to call those people xenophobic.
Well, Tessa, I'll come to you on this, because when we look at the comparison of those sexual offence claims with that data there, and we talk about Afghanistanis...
We need to interrogate
please do. The statistics those statistics say 1,000% more likely. And, then Syrians and Eritreans on there too. And then you see the nationality of people coming over to the United Kingdom. Should British people be worried?
It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder what the polling was about us going to war in Afghanistan. I wonder how they felt about that. We have, of course, delivered a paucity of visas for certain Afghans to be able to come legally when we know their lives have been under threat by the Taliban. Of course, we know about the massive data breach and the problems therein with our own Ministry of Defence. But let's talk more specifically about the scale of the problem. And I commend you. That was a marvellous performance. I always say telly needs performance. It is a performative medium, and I almost wanted to gift you a soapbox, but I thought you were doing a pretty good job.
I've got a nice chair here, actually. I've got a nice chair here, Tessa.
I know, but standing up.
Standing up would be even better. There we go.
But I think we have to bear in mind, at the moment globally, we have never witnessed this level of displacement. Because not just of extraordinary levels of war and military violence, but also because of climate change. And what you're having is a combination of factors that is pushing people, propelling people, and you are going to send your lean, mean male to try and clinch to get a foothold into a safer, better country. You're not going to be sending, you know, the fairer sex. We can get into a whole argument about equality and so forth, but actually there is a reason why men historically have been sent to war, etc. So that explains why generally it's men who are the first to arrive. I also think we need to recognise this isn't a uniquely British problem.
That's true.
If we look at the opposite ends of Europe, OK, so Turkey, 430,000 refugees per 1,000 head. Britain, 16 asylum claimants per 1,000 head.
That's true.
We are lucky, so we could reframe this. I'm not belittling the problem. It's not ideal for the people in the boats, for the people in France, for the people in Britain to have this displacement unregulated and anonymous. It's not ideal. But I just think we need proportion. And proportion doesn't work for our kind of politics at the moment, and it doesn't work for your channel.
Can I say, and I've been inside at least 5 or possibly 6 hotels myself, because for most of my life I've been a journalist, but actually I delivered a programme for conversational English for those women who were evacuated from Afghanistan. So I think I can talk from the inside. And it is much more than that, Tessa. It is a catastrophe. Not only are there internecine differences inside the hotel with one Afghan family against another Afghan family, which I've witnessed. I've been threatened several times. And, of course, they exist outside in the general community, depending on where the hotel is. Now, the Bell Hotel, for example, in Epping, happens to be in the middle of the small town. Now, I can tell you, as a foreign correspondent, when I was in Eastern Europe during the Kosovo crisis, there is a terrible problem when refugees are parachuted into a community and it upsets the ratio of those who actually live there and those who are put in. That's more than just a little problem. It's a disaster.
I agree. Every displaced person is a disaster. It's a personal crisis, and that spills over into the community they arrive in and the community they leave. But relatively, Britain is not impacted by illegal migration in the way that actually most countries, even in Europe,
just briefly on that, Tessa, would you not argue that it's better there in places like Turkey, it's better there in countries nearer to their home? And I know it's not close, I understand geography, but at least there's some cultural similarities. There is a vast chasm of culture between us and Afghanistani men. I think when we look at those, I want to go back to those statistics again because they are stark. And I know you'll say that you can dispute the data, but there is clearly at least cultural differences between us and Afghanistani men. And I'll say the same for Eritreans and I'll say the same for Syrians.
It's just so rude, though, isn't it?
Facts hurt.
In Afghanistan. Are we to negate
facts hurt, though, don't
history?
they?
Are we to negate the fact that the reason why so many of these illegal migrants speak English is because we went and spread our Anglo-imperialism all the way across the world so that 1/4 of the planet was invested and invaded by the Brits? I mean, we can't unpick that.
It
might affect you to say, oh, it's not good for us.
Can I just say, I find what you're saying, very, very brief, I find what you're saying completely fascinating. I love the intellectual cut and thrust of all of this. All I'm saying is we are beyond that point.
Okay.
Beyond which point?
Unfortunately, both of you, listen, I'm sorry, Linda, Tessa, I'd love to go and have this debate for longer, but unfortunately we have to move on because coming up next is A-Level Results Day, and alongside Jeremy Clarkson's annual witty social media post, the annual debate over whether university is worth it has once again re-emerged. I'm joined by a young man who's decided university just simply isn't for him and he wants less debt. We'll see you after the break.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're reigning supreme this
Absolutely.
morning.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy.
Did you watch it then? Did
I
you
did.
enjoy it?
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Honestly. Why did it come down to the crunch like that?
Because it's England. You know what? No matter whether it's the women or the men, it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. But they've got this resilience.
Oh,
the
they're
thing
good.
is that we've never seen with the men before. I suppose it's changed a little bit, but it really is that. I don't want to use any cliches, but that's
use
my
the
job.
cliches.
That's my job. Never say die attitude. And it was terrific. Do you know, though, for how long, out of the 3 knockout games that England played after the group stage, for how long they were actually ahead?
Go on.
Don't worry, I'll tell you. 4 minutes and 52 seconds across 3 entire games was the amount of time they were actually ahead. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference.
No. Yeah.
They came back and they won it. It was brilliant.
would it have been better? Oh God, I was still going to say.
Are you looking at
you? But in terms of if we'd had a stronger game, if we'd been really punching in this rather than it going right down to the wire.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think it really. I honestly don't think it matters. It's just about who wins, and when you've got a trophy. Which is up for grabs there, and also for the second time that the Lionesses have done it. And they were underdogs. I mean,
Were they?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
You'll have players that will say, "Oh no, I don't think so." And I said to you on Friday, there wasn't much in it.
Yeah, they were
but
of equal
But the Spanish team were the favourites. They're the world champions. And also pound for pound, if you look player for player, again, there's another cliche for you. They would have been the better side, but it's a team game. It's how everybody reacts together, how everybody plays alongside each other, and the management.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. Well, of course, today is A-level results day, and every year, 2 things happen, don't they? Jeremy Clarkson gives a witty lament of his own academic underachievements in solidarity with those who didn't do as well as they hoped. And the debate over the value of going to university reignites. Well, earlier this week, the economist Roger Bootle wrote a piece for The Telegraph titled "It's Time Britain Realised That Going to University is a Scam." Well, the Blairite dream of sending 50% of young adults into further education has been a waste of resources. So, despite results being higher than previous years and Britain's educational institutions still playing a key role in shaping the nation, many young people are opting out of university in favour of work-based training, which provides skills and avoids that hammering debt, which, trust me, I paid. It's awful. So, is going to university really worth it anymore? Well, joining me now, I have our guest, Digby Hebb.
Hello.
Digby, thanks for joining me tonight.
Thank you very much.
So, you didn't go to university.
No.
Right, maybe the most important question to ask you is, why?
I guess just to start off with, it's just too long. I think it's a bit too long. You don't need to go. And I just wanted to get on with it. I thought the rate of learning outside of university, practically working, is much higher than at university.
Yeah, did you see anything about the debt? Is some of the debt turn you off from going? Because my little brother's similar age as you. He went to university, and I'm looking, and he's telling me about how much debt he's going. It's like £70,000, £80,000.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge factor.
Yeah,
that's definitely a huge factor. But I think it's also just getting on with it and just accelerating my life.
And what have you gone and done instead? What did you choose to do differently?
So I left university, went to a coding bootcamp called Lewagon, and I just learned how to code, and then joined an AI startup. And I've
AI startup.
And I've been at a few ever since.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So hang on. So you've taught yourself. Do you have any programming? So for the audience don't know, there's a software programming. You code things on a computer, very technical, like what people will see in the movies. And did you have any coding skills before you joined this boot camp?
Not really. Not really. I had like mathematical skills, I guess, which is like you can like kind of they're like pretty similar, like pretty logical, but no coding.
And final question, I would love to bring in Linda and Tessa on this as well. But are you making money?
I'm making.
Yeah, you have to tell us how much you're making, by just it might make us a little bit depressed, actually.
I'm making money.
You're making money. Hey, there's a smile on his face. I assume he's doing very, very well.
Yeah.
Okay, Tessa, what would you like to ask Digby?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Digby. I want to understand what your university prospects would have been. You say you were good at maths. Did you have a maths A level?
Yeah, I did maths, further maths, physics, and graphics.
Right. So and you were a talented student, I'm presuming, so AB student.
Yeah. It's
so the world was potentially your oyster, and you took a specific path.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well done. And I think that's entrepreneurial, and Digby clearly will go far. The other thing I would say is you don't have to lean into university aged 18. I did 3 degrees in the end, and 2 of them I did, one in my 30s and one in my 40s. So and I've got to say, for me, it worked. Becoming a doctor literally saw. I mean, to be honest, the earnings weren't great, so it's a bit like saying Chad's economy, doubled. but my earnings doubled when I became a doctor. So in terms of the credibility, but I work in an arts environment where there's quite a lot of blagging. But the one thing I do feel sad about when I crunch the numbers on today are the drop away from what I call the humanities. So STEM's seen a bump because people are worried about the debt. They need to know they've got a real skill, a vocational skill they can immediately buy in. But if we don't have a cohort generation who's studying humanities, that's a tragedy on one level, because they are the only subjects that forefront feeling.
Well, this is interesting.
Is crucial.
I would like to ask you this, but we'll come back to this in a second, Digby. But Linda, what did you have your kids go to university?
All 3 of them went to university. Yeah. One did economics, one did English and drama, one did architecture. My youngest did architecture. I didn't go to university, but I did do something called indentures, which is like an apprenticeship, which sounds Dickensian, doesn't it? But I am a dinosaur. So when I started on the Western Mail in Cardiff, which is an NCTJ, I had an NCTJ qualification in magazines, but I did something called the Thompson Regional Training Newspaper Course, which is an in-house course. And it was absolutely brilliant. I learned everything: head office reporting, district reporting, sub-editing, page layout, stone sub-editing, all of that under my belt, 3 years, straight to Fleet Street.
So what you're saying there, Linda, is that you actually got upskilled and then went straight into your career that you wanted to, with skipping the hammering debt. I don't know how much. I mean, obviously the debt for students is now a thing.
It's massive. £53,000 on average at the moment. That will go up because the fees have jumped.
I paid about $50,000 back in mine.
My daughter's would have done 7 years.
Well, this is it. So Digby, do you have any friends that went to university or are going right now?
Yeah, like the majority of my friends.
And are they concerned about coming out with all that debt, and are they concerned about their job prospects at the end of it?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah, because this is the thing, isn't it? Because I guess the job market is really tough these days. Yeah. And one of the things I hear, and I've got four younger brothers who are all at that age now where they're just about to leave university or have left university and are struggling to get into the industry, because guess what they all say? All these jobs want work experience to you to have worked. And so so I guess, do you think do you strongly believe, Digby, that not getting a degree was the right option for you now, because now you have 2 years work experience on top of your colleagues? And have any of your employers been concerned about you not having a degree?
Not at all. Not in the area I work in. It's not a thing. I don't think I've even been asked my A-level grades.
Do any of your friends think you made a mistake by not going to university?
No, I've actually had the opposite. Pretty much the full support of almost everyone I talk to. They go, "Oh, that makes sense." Like when I talk to
including your parents, I believe.
Yeah, including.
But it's very individual. But I think more broadly, if we see a cohort of individuals, predominantly because of financial reasons, walk away from a university education, which is with you for life. It's not just about a career. It's a whole experience. It's something you've got in your pocket for the rest of time. Yeah. And if we're seeing them move away from those core subjects where empath and feeling are the focus, that really worries me about a loss of wisdom, human wisdom.
But what I want to say as well is when Tony Blair made that decision that he wanted 50% of people to go to university, because it was clear to him from the data that actually those people had a longevity and they earned more across a lifetime. He shouldn't just have been looking at did they have a degree or did they not, because there could have been other socio-economic factors that meant those children did well anyway what sort of family did they come from, what was the background, what sort of school did they go to. Just attaching a degree to that, I think, was the wrong thing, because you've got the wrong starting point.
I totally agree with you. Listen, I have had many jobs in my lifetime, in so many different areas, including technology. No one has ever asked to see my degree, not once.
Yes,
not
but
once.
you know you've got it.
But, that's very good of you to say. Yeah, that's a very good point. But I don't know whether it was worth £50,000 of debt. But there we go. Digby, final word to you then. What advice would you give to other young people who are thinking of they've got their A-level results now, what advice would you give?
I would say deliberately pursue figuring out what you want to do.
Oh, great line.
So, yeah, like, a lot of people, I feel like, go to university because they don't know what to do. And they go, and it's quite an expensive way to figure out, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And so I think people should be actively pursuing, using, like, all the resources online, figuring out,
It's one of the great intergenerational divides that people my age and older could just slop into uni and make a decision and not come out with debt. It's so unfair.
That's it. Well, Digby Head, thank you so much for coming on GB News tonight and telling us a bit of a different story to all those other young people who might be watching, wondering what to do next with their A-level results. So there we go. Ryle, coming up on State of the Nation.
I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace.
Just moments ago, the United States President Donald Trump spoke to the media from the Oval Office, saying he believes tomorrow's Alaska summit with Vladimir Putin will lead to peace between Russia and Ukraine. But will it? And will the Prime Minister be joining them? Well, we'll speak to one of President Zelensky's former advisors in just a moment.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The summer heat wave continues across much of Europe, particularly inland France, Spain and Portugal, where we're likely to see temperatures in the mid to low 40s. And with these high temperatures, we are set to see plenty of sunshine, but slightly different story as we move our way eastwards across the Mediterranean. At times, this heat is likely to produce some quite heavy, if not thundery showers across parts of Italy. And that is set to continue over the weekend, and the hot temperatures are here to stay.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be much more settled during the next 24 hours. Showers and thunderstorms easing, mostly dry and hot again in the south, albeit cooler across northern parts of the UK, having seen some thundery showers developing through the day. They're tending to ease now as we head into the hours of darkness, and for most of the UK it's drier. Clear spells for many, but some areas of cloud around, particularly for northwest England, parts of North Wales, more especially northern and eastern Scotland, where there'll be some low cloud covering the hills and bringing misty conditions to the coast. A few spots of rain out of that cloud overnight, otherwise it's a fine start to Friday. A warm night and a warm start for the south in particular on Friday morning. Plenty of sunshine and temperatures soon rising up to 20 degrees in places by 7 or 8 a.m. Some areas of cloud around, but yeah, for many it is a bright start to the day. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of sunshine, likewise for the central belt. But for much of central Scotland into the east of Scotland, northeast England, we will see this area of low cloud that's going to tend to drift southwards through the day to affect parts of East Yorkshire into the Lincolnshire coast, Norfolk perhaps by the afternoon. That's going to make it feel much cooler, and we'll have this onshore breeze with it. But where we've got the sunshine and lighter winds elsewhere, it's hotter once again, high 20s, low 30s in the south. Cooler for northern parts of the UK, more like low 20s. The low cloud in the North Sea tends to creep back inland overnight, and it will be with us first thing Saturday, fairly extensively, I suspect, through the morning, burning back towards the east as the day progresses, but a rather cloudy picture, I think, for eastern parts of the UK on Saturday. Much sunnier towards the west and southwest, and that's where the highest temperatures will be through Saturday and Sunday.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script. You sound like a broken record. You say that week after week. Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. Well, tomorrow's a big day, isn't it? Because President Trump is expected to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska in the hopes of finding peace between Ukraine and Russia. Well, earlier this evening, the president was speaking from the Oval Office about what he wants to achieve from the meeting.
We have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great.
Yes, well, President Trump then went to speak of the difficulty he's had in achieving peace so far, claiming again that the war is President Biden's fault.
I thought this would be maybe an easier one. It never made sense, this war. It would have never happened when I was president. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But millions of people have been killed. And I'm there for one reason, to see if I can solve. This was Biden's war. This isn't my war. I want to see if I can stop the killing.
Well, I'm pleased to be joined now by former advisor to President Zelensky, Igor Novikov. Igor, thank you very much for joining me. A big moment's coming up tomorrow, perhaps the first time the two leaders of Ukraine and Russia are supposedly set to meet. They'll both be there in Alaska. Is there a chance, is there a realistic chance that peace can be achieved in this summit in Alaska?
Well, I wouldn't say it's realistic to expect peace tomorrow. I think we'll eventually arrive at that destination, but I think tomorrow will be the first step. But it's really important to remember that Russia is the country that only responds to strength. And therefore, between any proverbial carrot and the stick, it's only the stick that works. And the reason Putin is there is because of the threat of sanctions, not because of any flattery on Trump's part.
Yes, and I hear that this minerals deal as well is going to be brought back onto the table by Trump, and he will be putting that to Putin. Is there a chance here that Zelensky is almost sort of written off in these conversations, only brought on? And I know Trump was also hinting that President Zelensky would be perhaps a follow-up meeting, not the first meeting. So is there a chance here that Zelensky gets completely written off and is only brought in as on some sort of ceremony at the end?
Well, there's a chance of that, obviously, always with President Trump. I think nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. Even President Trump doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow. He will only know tomorrow. But at the same time, you have to remember that at the end of the day, Ukraine is not only an independent European nation fighting for its sovereignty and survival, but also a part of this war, an integral part. We're fighting for freedom, and whatever they decide, if it's not acceptable to the Ukrainian people, with the war goes on.
Yes, and a final question to you, Igor. President Trump has hinted that other European leaders may be invited to the summit, but perhaps I suspect the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Keir Starmer, and perhaps the French President Emmanuel Macron, who seem to have been leading this coalition of the willing. Will their presence be any help at all to President Zelensky and Ukraine, or will it just be another roadblock? I know the president has actually been sort of slamming the French President Emmanuel Macron for sticking his nose into foreign affairs and causing trouble. So I guess the question I'm asking you, Igor, is the presence of European leaders helpful or unhelpful if we're talking about peace deals?
Well, it's definitely helpful because, we have to show unity to deter Russia. But at the same time, there's a very simple way to answer that question. The world is not going to resemble anything that we used to. The world of yesteryear is gone. It's the world of the future, something new, something that's been written on a blank piece of paper. Therefore, the more we unite the European nations, the more power and strength we have, because Russia's not going to go away. China hasn't said its word yet. North Korea is being very active in helping Russia, and therefore it's not post-Yalta anymore. It's a brand new day, brand new world, and therefore it's up to us to decide what it looks like.
Yes, well, thank you so much for joining me. It's Igor Novikov there, former advisor to President Zelensky. Thank you so much for joining us, particularly as we move on to this peace summit tomorrow. It's going to be big stuff. Tessa, I really hope that this can be pulled off. But I have a gut sense that Putin is not ready to go to peace terms yet. That is my gut. I know I'm just putting my finger in the air and testing, but what do you make of things so far as a historian? I mean, how do these things traditionally go?
Well, the word Ukraine actually means the edge of Russia in Russia. And Putin's never recognised Ukrainian sovereignty. He's mendacious. He talks out of two sides of his mouth. And he's also a showman. And I think he considers it a coup to be invited to America, once Russian, but now American. I wish Trump would remember that, Alaska, for this summit. And I presume that his intention is to drive a wedge between Trump, Zelensky and the allies. And I think initially that would have happened. You'll remember Trump talked about the land swap. Well, Putin knew that Zelensky was never going to agree to any land swap because Ukraine has no land to swap. And that would have been sorely problematic. Where I feel more optimistic from the West point of view is this, in the last couple of days, this clear collaboration and listening from Trump in terms of the beef Europe's had with the deal or any potential deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And Linda, of course, one of the things that I believe has led to this key moment was those tariffs put on India's oil imports from Russia. Now, it would seem to me that's dragged Putin almost to the table.
Absolutely.
Because that economic harm that it will be doing to Russia will be quite severe because they are a massive exporter of oil to India. Kind of going off of what Tessa was saying there, is this a chance that Putin could sort of create a ploy and is trying to get this tariff removed but may not actually give anything back?
Oh, I think there's a very strong chance of that. It's very interesting what Tessa is saying there. I mean, I think that you have to hand it to Donald Trump. The reason I think we're at this point is because he is a deal maker and not a politician. And I think he has acted as a deal maker. And all the deal makers I've ever met, and once or twice I've done quite senior corporate jobs, they will push and push and push and push until they get round the table. Now, the question is, what does he do now? Now, President Trump is talking very optimistically, but I don't know that there is that much cause for optimism, because at the end of the day, Putin has always had one goal. He wants to remove Ukraine's sovereignty. That is his aim. He has never moved from it. And I think no matter what he says in the short term, he will retain that as a long-term option.
I want to ask you an important question, Tessa, because Trump has threatened Russia. He has said, if he doesn't get this peace deal, it doesn't look favourable, that we could be looking to some sort of... I mean, he basically hinted at upping the war.
Yeah,
how concerned should we be?
I genuinely think this is a bit of a Munich moment, because I think you will get something of a ceasefire just briefly. I think Russia could do with a pause. They've lost 1 million men. They need to rearm. They haven't... I mean, they do have allies, and we know they've got Koreans fighting there. They've even got a few reluctant Indians in the mix. But they need a break. We know even Ukraine could do with a break, although they know that means Russia has a chance to regroup. But... if the ceasefire is broken, and I'm almost certain Russia will break it because we know they haven't got fully what they want, that means then, particularly Europe, but with American backing, we can't just go back to more of the same, i.e. little bit of piecemeal arms dealing to Ukraine. Exactly. We've actually got to come down harder on Russia, and if that means we've got our security players on Ukrainian soil and Russia is breaking the ceasefire, firing at Ukraine, that implicates potentially NATO, potentially European soldiers, and that escalates the war. I think we're in the foothills of something really serious.
Tessa, Linda, thank you so much. Really groundbreaking stuff. Tomorrow is going to be a moment in history, so I'm sure you're all going to be wanting to see what happens. Of course, GB News will be keeping you updated. Up next, Europe's right is on the rise. The AfD is now Germany's most popular party, and Italian living standards have surpassed Britain's. What's sending Europeans to the right? Of course, the beloved Princess Anne turns 75 tomorrow. We'll pay a small tribute to the princess, called Britain's hardest working royal. See you after the break.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
please bring us up to date.
Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dormy, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. Well, it's been 10 years since Angela Merkel welcomed hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees into Germany. But a decision flung Europe's borders wide open, sparking the biggest migration wave in modern history. It also helped push Britain towards Brexit, supercharged people smuggling gangs, and fuelled the rise of right-wing parties from Italy to Poland. Well, a decade on, Merkel's refugees welcome here policy has been replaced by border checks, deportation plans, and, of course, political division. 9 EU countries have shut their frontiers. Schengen's dream of free movement has crumbled, and the promise of cultural integration is a distant memory, it seems. So, is Europe now giving up on free movement? I'm joined now by assistant online editor at The Spectator, Lisa Hasseldine. Lisa, thank you very much for joining me. This is quite a moment, isn't it? Angela Merkel, perhaps, do you think she'll go down and that, as her famous, what was the saying?
Wir schaffen das.
Thank you very much. We'll do it far better justice than I would, Lisa. Wir schaffen das. Do you think that will be the moment? Just tell the audience what that means, by the way.
It means we can do it.
We can do it.
We can manage it.
When we talk about mass migration, we can manage it. Well, it seems like they can't manage it because look at the chaos it's caused. I mean, what's the implications?
The implications of this policy that Angela Merkel brought in 10 years ago at the end of this month have been huge, not only for Germany, which sort of has borne the brunt of this big flow of irregular migration coming into the continent, but obviously the rest of the continent as well, precisely because of this principle of free movement that exists within the EU. So, yeah, it's been huge. And, yeah, Germany has not managed it. Very pointedly, the current German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, said, I think maybe a month or two ago, yeah, it's crystal clear, I think the quote goes, we have not managed it. So I think there's been a bit of a reckoning. There's been a reckoning with regard to kind of how the German government, other European governments have dealt with this big influx of people, but also reckoning with Angela Merkel's legacy.
Yes. I think that legacy of hers is possibly destroyed, because she was going to go down as sort of the Iron Lady of Germany at one point, and she was heralded as a political success, but perhaps a little bit like Tony Blair. When people look back on reflection, they go, well, that was probably such a huge disaster that we'll remember you for this instead. Now, when we come to how that piece of that policy that she brought into Germany has impacted other countries, because we're now seeing the rise of a National Rally, who people never would have thought would be leading the polls, but they're leading the polls now. Of course, we've got parties in Italy, and here many people would make the comparison with Reform UK as well, leading a new right-wing party that's more anti-migration than ever before in British history. Do you think this is a part of that Merkel legacy?
Yes, I think so. I think it's a bit of a convoluted, also rather complicated path to it, in the sense that the reason that these populist parties are beginning to do so well across Europe is in large part, of course, due indirectly as well as directly to the migrant crisis as well, but the indirect part of it is also just as important, which is that governments across Europe that took in this number of people have not done a good job at helping them integrate into these societies, and also basically other things that are not related to migration, things like social housing, education, healthcare, sort of all these provisions that basically they have failed at providing to their populations. Now, these populations have begun to feel very angry, left behind, and it's very easy then for these populist parties to come in and basically tie in the argument against migration too. So there's a few things going on.
And is that the reason why these further right parties are doing so well, or at least just let's just say at the bare minimum they are anti-migration parties to a certain extent, is because they're focusing on that being the biggest issue? Because I think when we see lots of polling even here in Britain, we see that this is such a huge issue for Brits now, but those main parties, the established parties, what people would call the establishment, have failed to address it, and they've actually allowed it to perpetuate. Are they being punished across Europe?
I think they really are, yes. As you pointed out, there are sort of right-wing governments, for example, in Italy. There's been a right-wing president just elected in Poland. That these figures, these politicians are being elected into positions of power, but there are also very strong opposition parties that do the same job. And yes, I think the establishment parties are being punished for it.
And do you see many of those, well, we could almost see a wave of these populist parties coming in across Europe at similar times. Do you think that would almost, many of them are Eurosceptics. Many of them don't want to be part of the EU. Could you see them sort of changing and scrapping elements of the EU as it is today? Could we see a new EU emerge, but perhaps without all the freedom of movement and other things that are tied to it?
Yes, quite possibly. So, for example, the AfD, the Alternative für Deutschland party, which is the sort of the far-right party in Germany that is basically the official opposition right now. 1 in 4 Germans support them. They are very they are anti-EU as well. Part of their manifesto is taking Germany out of the European Union as well. And yes, and I think particularly on the question of free movement, these temporary border controls, I don't see how they are going to be going anytime soon. And basically, if the EU wants to preserve some of its principles, it will have to reform in reflection of that.
Could you, I mean, this is a bit of a wild, out there question, because I think the answer is probably no. But is there a possible future where the EU is more aligned with what British people want out of it? I.e., they want close economic ties, but not sovereignty being taken and pushed over to the European Commission, for example. They want all those sorts of things gone. Could there be a time, perhaps, where the EU itself changes so much that Britain doesn't oppose going back to it?
God, wouldn't that be ironic?
It really would, wouldn't it?
I don't know, only in so much as to say that if the EU were to change that much, I'm not sure it would exist as the EU anymore.
Right. A whole new name almost, like the United Nations from the League of Nations, whatever it was called before.
Exactly.
OK, and I guess my final question to you is, how well do you think the established parties might pivot into the territory of parties like the AfD and Reform in order to stop them from winning? Do you think, you see Merz there is obviously cracking down hard on deportation. He started deporting, I think, Syrians, perhaps, he was deporting recently. How far do you think they'll go to try and wade off the right wing?
I think they probably will go quite far. It's a whole other question as to whether that's successful, because I think what we see as well is that when these parties try to do that, essentially they don't actually win back much trust from voters. So I'm sure they will go that far. I don't know how successful they'll be in managing to win voters back from them.
Interesting stuff. Lisa Hasseltine, thank you so much for joining me. We'll watch with bated breath, won't we? But tomorrow is Princess Anne's 75th birthday. Her Royal Highness, lovingly known as Britain's hardest working royal, is famously private with her personal life. And indeed, it was reported today that she may not even get the party poppers out this year, as she reportedly only celebrated birthdays ending in 0. Very serious woman, we love that. She remains an integral part of the royal household and continues to dedicate her life to public service. We must note, however, her most important job to date, that is, of course, bestowing a knighthood on the very host of this programme, our very own Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. There he is there at Windsor Castle, his wife Helena and his 3 of his 6 children, also their his children being Peter, Mary and Thomas, while he received his honour from the magnificent Princess Royal. Happy birthday, Your Royal Highness, and many more. Come, let's hope you get to that next 8-0 to have those party poppers out, hey? If you're not going to do them for your 75th, get them out for your 80th. And just before you go, here is a beautiful scene from scenes at the Constitutional Hill near Buckingham Palace, where World War II veterans are celebrating tomorrow's 80th anniversary of the Allies' victory over Japan Day. Stay tuned for lots more, of course, of these covering of these events. It's a very moving event happening there, and of course it's the moment that really signified the end of the war, the end of World War II, because of course it did carry on after victory in Europe. It carried on right until the end there. Well, that is it from me. I'm Alex Armstrong. Thank you for watching tonight. More coming up next is Patrick Christie's. What have you got for us, Patrick?
Well, thank you very, very much, Alex. I was having a look around today, and I wondered whether or not we were living in Britain or if we were now a district of Pakistan, because it was Pakistan Independence Day and there's been some quite interesting celebrations across the country. I'm going to be having a little look at them. I am also going to be asking whether or not you should be able to down tools if it gets too hot. Angela Rayner certainly seems to think so. There is a very concerning and conflicting reports coming out about an alleged incident at the Britannia Illegal Migrant Hotel in Canary Wharf. And in light of the fact that police said that they were going to give us more information yesterday, that was going to be a directive given out by police, I'm asking, why are they not doing that now? So we've got all of that and much more after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to be much more settled during the next 24 hours. Showers and thunderstorms easing, mostly dry and hot again in the south, albeit cooler across northern parts of the UK, having seen some thundery showers developing through the day. They're tending to ease now as we head into the hours of darkness, and for most of the UK it's drier. Clear spells for many, but some areas of cloud around, particularly for northwest England, parts of North Wales, more especially northern and eastern Scotland, where there'll be some low cloud covering the hills and bringing misty conditions to the coast. A few spots of rain out of that cloud overnight. Otherwise, it's a fine start to Friday. A warm night and a warm start for the south in particular on Friday morning. Plenty of sunshine and temperatures soon rising up to 20 degrees in places by 7 or 8 a.m. Some areas of cloud around, but yeah, for many it is a bright start to the day. Northern Ireland seeing plenty of sunshine, likewise for the central belt. But for much of central Scotland into the east of Scotland, northeast England, we will see this area of low cloud that's going to tend to drift southwards through the day to affect parts of East Yorkshire into the Lincolnshire coast, Norfolk perhaps by the afternoon. That's going to make it feel much cooler, and we'll have this onshore breeze with it. But where we've got the sunshine and lighter winds elsewhere, it's hotter once again. High 20s, low 30s in the south, cooler for northern parts of the UK, more like low 20s. The low cloud in the North Sea tends to creep back inland overnight, and it will be with us first thing Saturday, fairly extensively, I suspect, through the morning, burning back towards the east as the day progresses, but a rather cloudy picture, I think, for eastern parts of the UK on Saturday. Much sunnier towards the west and southwest, and that's where the highest temperatures will be through Saturday and Sunday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to send some of those monthly financial stresses packing this August with your chance to be mortgage or rent-free for 12 whole months. We'll give you a cash lump sum that equals 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to an amazing £20,000. We'll also throw in an extra £5,000 on top of that for good measure. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable. What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.